Hey, Golden Eagles, it's time to talk. I'm your host, Joshua Latona, and I'm here with my co-hosts today, Tahiti Salinas and Marisa Martinez. For those of you who don't know, I'm the editor-in-chief for the University Times and the program director for Golden Eagle Radio. Marisa Martinez is the digital editor for the University Times and the station manager for Golden Eagle Radio. Tahiti Salinas over here is our managing editor for the University Times. Time to Talk is a show that brings together Golden Eagle Radio and the University Times under one umbrella to discuss campus news and issues, or just anything else that connects back to Cal CLA. For this episode, we'll be discussing Chancellor White's Spring 2021 announcement, best practices win on Zoom, and finally, UT conducted a survey about quarantine complaints, and students from the community share their thoughts with us. So I'm going to begin the show, like I mentioned, talking about the Spring 2021 announcement, which is that breaking news happened the other day, which was that the spring semester is going to be online. I don't think this comes to a surprise to anyone. Back in May, they announced that the fall would be online, and I think it was just safe to assume at this point the spring was going to be too. But now it's official. And I think this just kind of remains a sign that things are going to stay the same as they are for a while, especially for the CSU students. I think it's got to be the most reasonable option right now. I think it's just, again, it's at no surprise, but to hear it officially is kind of a bummer. I know some of us are going to be finishing out either this semester or next semester, and it just remains a bit more question marks about stuff like graduation or how we're going to be doing classes, and let alone a lot of the majors that require more hands-on experience and what that entails for them. I wanted to open it up to the floor and kind of get your guys' thoughts real quick.
I can definitely say that I was pretty bummed out just because, as you mentioned, a couple of us, I'm not sure if all of us were going to graduate the upcoming semester, but at least I was, and I was definitely looking forward to walking, definitely. It's been something that my parents have been looking forward to, I've been looking forward to, and I was really I really wanted to walk. But I mean, it's understandable. We are in an unprecedented time, and I understand their decision, and I stand by it. I'd rather be safe at home, So I'm sad, but I understand.
Yeah, it's about the same for me. I always say this. We're like our last day at the newsroom, at our newsroom. We're all really close, and we've all worked together for, I want to say, years at this point. So we didn't know that our last day at the UT was our last day at the UT. And going into our senior year, knowing that this being our senior year, knowing that the last semester of our senior year won't be spent in the place that we've worked so hard to build is hard. It's a hard hit, but it's necessary. So I'm trying to keep that in mind and trying not to be upset about it. I do hope there is some change in tuition, because I know for a lot of students that was a really big issue, is that we're not going to be on campus. We're not going to be using all the resources that our tuition is supposed to be providing for us. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work next semester, if the administration's going to take those steps to actually confront those concerns. So that's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. But I don't think we'll know for maybe a couple weeks, if not like months for sure, if there's going to be an actual decision on that. And like Tahiti said, like we're all looking forward to graduating as well. That's the other part to this for me is like every time it was graduation season, I would like imagine just walking. Because for transfer students like me, like I've worked 6 years, almost 8 years to actually get my bachelor's degree. So knowing that that stage is not going to be in the cards for me or for any of our colleagues and classmates, it's hard. It's disappointing. So it's kind of bittersweet where it's like, yeah, we'll be graduating. Yeah, we'll be done with this crazy, crazy year. But like, there's so many other parts that just kind of like, there's nothing, no other word for it. Like, it just kind of sucks, but it's worth not getting sick and making sure that no one else gets sick.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. And something I wanted to bring up is, if tuition fees don't change, is it worth staying at a CSU? That's been the only thing I've known. My parents, pushed me to go to a CSU, but I know community colleges are options. And, we're talking about, people who are about to graduate, but there are incoming freshman classes or people who just started their freshman year. And maybe hopefully financial aid covers all of their tuition prices, but in the same breath, I know there's got to be students out there who are paying out of pocket a little bit, if not maybe most. And I just don't know what that entails. Like, would they want to stay at a CSU considering the price it is and tuition fees haven't gone down? Like, what is that worth right now? And I know some students as well, like, there's like conversations that students have had about gap years or just gap semesters. I was wondering to get your guys' thoughts on that as well.
I mean, as far as for me, it wouldn't really be an option just because I wouldn't want to mess up the credits that I already have. Because, it's definitely a process when you transfer from one school to another, because you don't know what the requirements are for what your major is, and you've already done the progress that you need, at the school that you're in. But I definitely understand, people who, are maybe probably just starting out and they could not possibly afford the tuition if it's not going to be lowered, especially because, it's an unprecedented time, just like I'm saying, like people are losing their jobs, it's kind of difficult to even keep a job because of what's going on right now. So I definitely understand, if like people in our community want to take a gap year or something like that, but I just personally feel that it wouldn't be like those cards wouldn't be on my table for me to choose from.
I think it's really interesting, the idea of a gap year. I feel like that I don't know if it would apply so much in this situation. I think it seems like it would, but when I've talked to my brother, he's a freshman in college. He's just getting into his first semester this year, and so are all of his other friends. So I asked him, I was like, is anyone, like, are any of them considering a gap year? And all of them seem to just want to get their education done with. So it's interesting that I thought that would be a more valued option right now, but it doesn't seem to be the case. But that's just an immediate friend group, and that's not speaking for all of the high schoolers that turned into college freshmen this year. The other thing is the option of community college. That seemed to be, I would, if I were to be a freshman in college going into my first year with this pandemic, I personally would have picked community college, just because I've had a great experience with community college. And it really is the best option in terms of like finances. But at the same time, I think it does also apply, the same rationale also applies to this, where they just want to get it done. And it doesn't really matter what the cost is at that point. So I guess it really varies on the situation, how much an individual can afford and what their options are. So it's really a case-by-case scenario, but personally, if it were me, if I were a freshman right now, I'd be at a city college.
And you know what, you just made me see some kind of silver lining about your story about your brother, is that, it's all remote, but I guess this kind of gives a chance for a student to go, like, say, like a student in Florida wants to come to San Diego State or Cal CLA. They don't have to move, right? That's a total upside that maybe no one's talked about. And, I can maybe even raise that bar even crazier by saying, like, you could go to Harvard and still be in California, which is kind of an insane thought.
I know two people like that. I know someone who's actually had gone to Harvard and is in he was actually an older friend of mine from from my community college. He was a law student at Harvard. He's at Calabasas right now doing his schooling. So it's kind of funny. And then also one of my brother's friends, he got accepted to a school in Portland, Oregon, and he ended up staying in Eagle Rock, California. So it's happening where people are supposed to be, you know, in different states and they're actually at home. So that's also, yeah, that's definitely a case right now.
Right. And I just thought, you know, I guess if someone had to look at it positively, that would be it. Is you right now you have a chance, and with the CSUs just staying closed, I imagine a lot of other schools like those of the Ivy League and stuff like that would probably follow suit, depending on where their cases are right now. I know they basically did this decision because they're expecting waves in October and then again next year, and we just have to be careful at all costs. Like I think we all said, we want to be back on campus. I miss the newsroom. You know, our business manager told us a story about being back in there and feeling kind of happy for a second, and then that feeling going away just because you got to be in there real quick to pick something up. And it's a bummer, but the reality is we all have to stay safe. And yes, so we'll be moving on. If you are just joining us, you are listening to Time to Talk, a show about Caslay news and issues. And right now, we just discussed the CSU campuses being closed for the spring semester. Now we're going to move on. We had an article written by our fellow here, Marisa Martinez, about Zoom etiquette, which will tie directly into just things you might want to know if we're going to be online and learning and doing remote learning for the rest of the year, basically. So Marisa, I will let you take it away. You could talk about the article and give us some of the best tips that you found.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one, actually, because for me personally, like we're just getting into Zoom classes, or we're now officially like in it, right? At the end of the last semester, it was kind of like, what is this? And now it's like we're actually trying to figure out how to be students, peers, being social while taking Zoom classes and getting the most out of our classes. So it's, for me, I was like, we got to figure out the best cases to do, like the best case scenarios to do this. I'm going to adjust my camera here. Sorry about that. So I decided to talk to, sorry, give me just a second. I decided to talk to the Center for Effective Teaching and Learning. And I spoke with the director, the senior director, Catherine Harris, and the instructional designer, Owen Lancaster. And we literally just went, we were just interviewing for almost like an hour and a half at one point, because they had basically trained all the faculty and staff over the summer. In the span of 3 months, they basically taught about 1,300 faculty and staff how to effectively turn their classes into Canvas and Zoom classes. And so they have basically, they're pretty much experts on how to deal with Zoom and how to connect effectively over Zoom. So some of the bigger things that I thought were really interesting, there were 9 tips that I mentioned in total, but some of my favorites were actually having a morning routine and getting yourself out of that like bedhead mentality into an actual work mentality and getting fully dressed. They specifically mentioned to wear pants. And this isn't like this, these aren't like the 10 commandments of Zoom. Like you don't have to like abide by this, but it does help to just get you out of a groggier mentality and into a more active mentality. And that will help you get more engaged in your classes. It'll maybe for those who have the ability to like put their camera on, it'll probably allow them to put their camera on, because I know if I don't look great, I tend to turn my camera off. So if you're ready for your day, you're more engaged with your classes, with your professors, with your classmates. Another one that I found really helpful, and it happened to me recently too, where my audio's been really messed up on my computer recently. So I have friends in class who literally tell me sometimes like, hey, like this, I think your mic is still on, or your audio is doing something weird. And it's helpful to just have a friend, a go-to friend in your class. At least each of your classes have one go-to friend where you can be like, hey, is this what we're talking about in class, or is this what we have due for this class, or anything that has to do with the session that you're in. It can be technology, the content within the class. You can have that friend to go to, just to connect with and make sure that you guys are on the same page and that, you know, technologically everything's good. The other thing is, I found this one was actually really helpful for me personally, and I had no idea that this was a thing, where you could actually turn off it's called hide self view. So you can actually turn off your video for yourself while it's still, while your peers are still able to see your video. So you just, on the 3 dots on top of your Zoom video, you click that, it goes down to hide self view, click that, and then you won't be able to see your face for as long as you want. And it's great because like Lancaster was saying, he said, I like this quote from him, it was great. He said, quote, it's great for it's great for professional comportment because it teaches you how to have a much better business space, but it's also really, really taxing, and Zoom fatigue is very, very real. So it's great to see your face and know what you look like in front of people, but it's also really taxing on how tired you can be over Zoom. And Zoom, and like he said, Zoom fatigue is a real thing, and part of it is seeing your face all the time. So getting that out of the way and not having to worry about what you look like and just relax and watch the class and everything, that really does help me personally. But it's good to keep in mind that, like, again, everyone can still see what you're doing. Everyone can still see what's going on behind you. So just keep that in mind. Don't like do anything weird, no picking your nose, like nothing like nasty, because your friends and your professors can still see you. So keep that in mind as well. Those are my top like 3 personally. The whole article has about, has 9 total, but yeah, they had some really great tips that students could keep in mind to get the most out of their classes. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I really enjoyed making the article, writing it and talking with them about it, because I feel like we all really need some help right now on how to connect over social media, over Zoom and Canvas. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, I mean, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but yeah, it was really fun to create this article personally.
Yeah, and there was a lot of really great tips in there, especially, you know, having to wear pants. I'm typically just a person to roll right out of bed and into class. I only have one 9 a.m. class this semester, so I just kind of get my blankie, wrap it around me, sit in my chair, and just sit in class, which I get it. I should be doing better and getting freshening up, but I'm just so tired. And I think for this level, it's a 9 a.m. class, and I think I'm allowed some leeway here.
Right. No, and like I said, like these aren't like the 9 commandments of Zoom. Like they're really just like, these can help. These tips can help. If you really don't want to make a friend in Zoom, you don't have to. It just helps to have that person to be like, hey, like your video is still on and I see you like brushing your hair. I don't know. Like it just helps to have those things known. So
I think it also helps just because, like, say for example, if you can't get onto the Zoom call, you can tell your buddy and be like, hey, I'm having technical issues. Can you tell the professor? And at least the professor knows that you're having technical issues and you're not just late to class because you wanted to.
Exactly. And I can't even tell you how many times like I've contacted a classmate and like, what's the actual Zoom link? Because I can't, sometimes it's hard to find them, and like they're like hidden amongst the modules and I have to like search for it. But yeah, it does help to have that person there.
It has been handy that professors have, like, you know, stuck to like basically making recurring meetings, because I just saved all my Zoom codes on like a note on my computer, so I just got to go there and I'll click them. because God knows last semester waiting whatever that day of class was for the email with the Zoom link was like just a mess, because I'll find myself like getting caught up with something, totally forgetting to check the email, or maybe I accidentally deleted it. Who knows? Or maybe I didn't get it, because God knows whatever happens, the emails sometimes get lost in the intersphere of the web. I was hoping real quick if anyone had any like funny Zoom incidents where maybe not necessarily these tips might have helped. While you guys think, I know I have one where I had a class at 9 a.m. last semester, and I would just get up and start making breakfast. And because we had a lot of fruit, I would naturally make licuado, and that's a fruit blended smoothie. And totally forgot to mute my mic and had the blender right next to the computer in the kitchen. So I was the noisy one that day. But
That's
I'll pass
hilarious.
it on to you guys.
So I don't. Earlier this semester, I was part of this. I co-moderated a town hall with Chancellor White earlier this year. Oh, it wasn't even in this semester. My bad. It was like a week before the semester started, and I was like, okay, I gotta be professional. Like, I have to have like a white background. I have to make sure that I'm good. And so my white background didn't work. The lighting was off. So I had to move here, which is my usual spot. And I had like, I don't know if you see behind me, but I have like a bunch of memorabilia. And I've got like my little corgi photo there. But before that, I had also these action figures of the Sith Lords of Star Wars. And I had to, one of the tips is to just consider what's behind you. So I had to literally, they're on the floor now, you can't see them, but like I've gotten so used to this background, just like, I'll just leave it. But yeah, like I like to keep the quirkiness of it, but I don't like it to be too unprofessional. So that's something that I was trying to explain to like all these like amazing journalists, like I have Star Wars memorabilia behind me, and I had to take it down. So yeah, that's one of mine.
Let's see. I was trying to think of one, but the only thing that can come up is I can't. Okay, so as you can see, I'm on my bed. I don't have a desk. I don't have space enough for a desk, so I have to do my Zoom calls on here. And reason being was because I once tried to do a Zoom call while I was in the kitchen, like on the dining table. And I forgot to mute my mic. So all you could hear was just like my parents just talking, the door opening and closing, people like cooking. And I was just like, I was very embarrassed. So I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna take it to the room now. So every time I'm in here, I just lock the door, because last time too, I was in class and I always have my mic off, but the second that I was gonna interact in class, I turn it on and my mom comes in, she's like, do you want anything to eat? Right when I had turned it on. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna lock the doors now so you guys don't come in, because it's just too much. That's the only fun experience I got.
Hot mics are a thing. Hot mics, I think, are probably the most normal version of like what could go wrong in Zoom is a hot mic. I've said like there's so many class sessions where someone's got a hot mic and it's like you can hear everything that's going on in the background. But yeah, very common.
And don't worry, Marisa, if we want to talk about quirky backgrounds with geek memorabilia, you viewers may never see this, but during the staff meetings, all of you have seen where I like conduct my staff meetings, which are in my bedroom, which is Geek Central. You don't worry, Marisa, you are fine in comparison, because you can see all the geek stuff I have in the back. And who knows, maybe we'll reveal it one day for one of these episodes, maybe not, because I'm too embarrassed. But that being said, if you're just joining us, welcome. This is Time to Talk, a Golden Eagle Radio and University Times podcast that brings together both organizations I just mentioned to address campus topics and issues. I'm Joshua Latona, and we were just done talking about Zoom etiquette and just best practices when you're using, Zoom for your classes. I'm here with my co-hosts Tahiti and Marisa, and we're going to be moving on as we talk about Tahiti's article, Quarantine Complaints, where she conducted a survey and got a bunch of impressions from students about sort of their issues right now that they're facing and just general complaints while being quarantined. So Tahiti, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so we had pitched this idea a while back, and we hadn't really figured out how we were going to do it. We knew that it was a good idea, and I just it just came to a point where I was like, there's going to be a lot of complaints. So I want to create a survey. So I created the survey first because I didn't want to interview people without knowing what the most common complaint was. So that way I could base my questions off of that. So I did the survey first, and I was able to get 70 responses, of which I have very, very favorite complaints that I received. And I've shared in the article itself a couple of them, the ones that were the most popular, but these are my personal favorites because I relate to them and I think that they're very relatable. First one being, and I quote, "I miss the homies." And I do. I miss all my homies. I miss all my friends. You know, I just miss hanging out with everyone. And I feel that completely. The next one is family everywhere. I cannot escape them. And I feel that too. You know, barging in through the door, asking me what I want, but I totally appreciate it. But yes, sometimes you just need a break, you know. I got another one that said everything, and I could relate to that because, you know, sometimes you're just tired. You're just tired of everything, and, you know. I also have two other ones. It was being scared of getting COVID if I go out. Very relatable. And not being able to continue my regular routine, which I related to very hard because I had, you know, a routine that I followed every day and that, you know, I felt comfortable doing it, but now it was just kind of like everything was like thrown off scale. So I had to like readjust to these changes that were being made. But overall, the responses were really funny. The survey showed like many changes that people did during quarantine as well, because one of my questions was like, you know, have you made any changes? Did you cut your hair? Did you dye it? And as you guys may know from previous episodes, I dyed my hair too. So I made changes as well. And I related to most of it. We also had, you know, weight gain that was caused by quarantine 15, which is basically where you just, you know, gain weight because you've been inside indoors for so long and you can't go to the gym, and it's really hard to do workouts at home. You know, it's just not the same. I've tried it. I'm pretty sure many of our viewers have, and it just doesn't really work the same way. But overall, we got really, really great answers, and I was really glad to be able to like get that survey, get so many answers, and then afterwards interview these like other people, and provide like a human element to it that, you know, you could see the people that were relating to the survey answers that we had received. But overall, it was a fun story to do. Very tedious work, but I loved it. So I hope you guys can read it too. So it was a great read.
I'm glad you also mentioned that. And I know part of your survey was also about just sort of Zoom neck, I think is what maybe I'm coining it. Marissa's asking what that is. And I'm officially coining it here today, #Zoom neck. That's what I'm going to do in every show, create a hashtag, which is the neck or back issues you develop while on Zoom. So we're going to call it #Zoom neck.
Okay, yeah, no, I could totally relate to that. Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember, I told you guys that, like, you know how, like, sometimes if you have pain in your foot, it's because you have an issue with your back, like, they correlate. I've been having on my left foot, not the toe-ish area, but the pinky toe area. This sounds ridiculous. I don't know how else to explain it, but, like, the pinky toe area where it hits the floor is so painful for me now, and it was never like that before the pandemic. Once I started sitting in this spot over and over again and not getting up and moving enough, my back, I guess, is now being affected, and it's just now affecting my foot. So it's all this stuff that's correlated to the pandemic, because, like, you know, we're doing is sitting, and it's now affecting a lot of people's back, neck, and feet, I guess, now too. So that kind of sucks. But
yeah, it is very true. We also did have, so I included if you could choose from either experiencing back pain, neck pain, or your legs falling asleep, because as you guys can see, you know, I'm on my bed, so I have to be constantly readjusting myself so my legs don't fall asleep, because if not, I get that static feeling that I absolutely hate. So, you know, it's, I think, like an all around kind of thing that, you know, we're all experiencing these issues just because we're constantly in the same spot for long periods of time, and just sometimes even having back-to-back Zoom meetings, not having a break in between. So it sucks.
Yes. Yeah, I like 9 a.m. to like 5 sometimes, like all day Zoom. It's frustrating. But I can also relate to the quarantine cuts where this happened, because this was a quarantine cut. But if you're listening on Golden Eagle Radio, I cut my bangs, which I didn't have before the pandemic. So yeah, it happens. Quarantine cuts are a thing.
Yeah, I'm just realizing I'm getting all these like lower back pains because the chair I typically use for all my classes is supposed to be for lounging, which I really just use when I'm playing video games. I can kind of sit back and relax. But this chair here I'm using is more upright, which helps, but that's not what I'm using in there, where I have my, my Mac, and it's, I can do everything on there. So it's a little bit of an issue where I'm constantly hunched forward, and I'm trying to find an angle where I have my like keyboard and I'm like this, and I have to reach over, and then next I'm back like this, and I'm just like, I'm gonna look like a dinosaur when this is all over. Oh, don't know
I
if you heard
worry
that on
about
there.
my
That was quick
neck.
text.
Like, cause you know how like if you're just relaxing and you can't see it on the camera, if you're relaxing, your neck goes forward. So you always forget to do that posture thing, and that posture thing over and over again is really exhausting on your back and everything else. But it's best for your body, but your body immediately goes into this. And you can't really see it. It's not much of a difference, but it does actually affect your posture and the pain that you experience later. So that's the thing, man. I don't like it.
Well, with all that being said, thanks for listening, Golden Eagles. This has been Time to Talk, the show that deals with Cal State campus issues. I want to thank my hosts, Tahiti and Marisa, for being on here with me today. From the University Times and Golden Eagle Radio, stay safe, everyone.